Hey, Shalom. So, I got a quick message for you, okay? I'm just going to get right into this message, right? Let's go Isaiah 45 and 7. Let's go to Isaiah 45 and 7, okay? We're going to run right into it. Isaiah 45 and 7, and it reads, this is God talking. This is Elohim talking, right? This is Christ speaking, okay? It says, I form the light and create darkness. Okay? I make peace and create evil. I, Yahuwah, do all of these things. Alright, now, let me read that again. Okay? Some of you have been brought up to believe that just as you have been brought up to believe religion, and just as many of you have been brought up to believe in yourselves, many of you believe in a westernized understanding that Satan is either equal to God, he's either equal to Christ, or Satan does what he wants to do. That's a lie, okay? Satan follows instructions, alright? Now, he's free to pretty much do just about whatever he wants to do to an extent, but for the most part, Satan knows his limits. He has boundaries. Why? Because of the sovereignty of Christ, the sovereignty of Yahuwah. So, in Isaiah 45 and 7, it says here, Yahuwah is letting you know, the Father, the Creator, he's letting you know, I form the light, I create darkness, I make peace and create evil. I, Yahuwah, do all these things. So Yahuwah does all of these things. Okay? Now, I'm going to make a declaration. Okay? Here's the declaration that I'm going to make. And it's going to come to pass. Alright? I'm about to make a declaration. And this declaration will happen. It will occur. Okay? Let's go to Psalms 101. Psalms 101. Okay? This is a declaration that I'm about to make. Now, I want you all to go to Psalms 101. We're going to start at verse 5. And it says, whoso privately slander his neighbor, him will I cut off. This is Yahuwah talking. Whoso privately it's David's singing, but Yahuwah speaking through him. Whoso privately slander his neighbor, him will I cut off. Him that hath an high look and a proud heart will I not suffer. Mine eyes shall be upon the faithful of the land, that they may dwell with me. Yah says, my eyes shall be upon the faithful of the land, that they may dwell with me. He that walketh in a perfect way, he shall serve me. He that worketh deceit shall not dwell in my house. He that telleth lies shall not tarry in my sight. I will early destroy all the wicked of the land, that I may cut off all wicked doers from the city of Yahuwah. From the city of Yahuwah. Now, I want to read that in the ESV, if you don't mind. I want to read it in the ESV. Okay? Psalms 101. And we can actually start at verse 4. This is the same thing I just read, but I'm reading it out of the ESV now. Psalms 101, verse 4. And we're going to read to the end. It says, a perverse heart shall be far from me. I will know nothing of evil. Whoever slanders his neighbor secretly, I will destroy. Whomever has a haughty look and an arrogant heart, I will not endure. I will look with favor on the faithful in the land, that they may dwell with me. He who walks in the way that is blameless shall minister to me. No one who practices deceit shall dwell in my house. No one who practices deceit shall dwell in my house. No one who utters lies shall continue before my eyes. Shall continue before my eyes. This is the declaration that I'm making. I'm not going to use my own words. I'm going to make this declaration according to the scriptures. No one who practices deceit shall dwell in my house. No one who utters lies shall continue before my eyes. Morning by morning I will destroy all the wicked in the land. Morning by morning, every day, I will destroy all the wicked in the land, cutting off all evildoers from the city of Yahuwah. Okay? Alright. Now, I know about maybe, and this is including the circumcision. See, this is the sad part. Remember, I told you that this message is directed toward the circumcision. I already know like 95% of those outside of the circumcision. I'm just jibber-jabbing. I'm just talking. Many people probably are just listening and they're not even paying any attention to what I'm saying. But even sadder is this message is to those directed to those of the circumcision. And a very high percentage of you considers this jibber-jabber as well. That's the dangerous part. Okay? So many of you choose to side with mortal people. You choose to side with mortal people instead of listening to the words of Yahuwah. You can't let any person, man, woman, or anybody, deny you of the kingdom. But many of you are going to allow this. Now, I just want you to know something, right? We have leaders, right? Whether they be in organizations, whether they be in congregations, whether they be in camps, whether they be in politics. I'm speaking of black leaders among Israel, but I'm also speaking of religious leaders that aren't black, that aren't Israelites. Because you have a lot of Caucasian religious leaders out there as well, and they think that they are of the circumcision, but they despise Revelation 1:14 and 14 and 15. If you are a Caucasian, whether you be a Christian or whether you be Catholic, and you preach the Bible, but yet you deny Revelations 1:14 and 15, you are trampling overfoot all of the instructions of the Bible. Nothing that you say, nothing that you tell your congregation will stand. Now, one of the problems with anybody being a head of a congregation or with any man in leadership, I'm going to explain the problem with that. Okay? If you see a man in leadership with a lot of followers, or you see someone being favored or overly respected, and many of you can only command soldiers as long as you pay them. If you don't pay them, you can't command them. I know this for a fact because really a lot of them don't respect you. Many of them don't. They just want to continue to feed and they want to continue to put food on their table. And they want to continue to because there it goes, because of all of that stuff that you talk about, having your household in order. Many of you lose this money. You won't have any control over your wives whatsoever. Why? Because you're probably the only breadwinner, and your wife has never contributed anything to anything. She's never been there with you through thick and thin. She's never stood there with you in the fire. Many of you don't know what that means. Many of you don't know what that feels like to have a woman like that. But in any event, I want to go on to something, a very interesting scripture. And this is for those of you out there, whether you are an Israelite in the circumcision, or whether you are a person of another nation that thinks that fancies that you're in the circumcision, but yet you despise Revelations 1:14 and 15. Let me show you the problem about having people underneath you, right? But when a dollar is concerned, okay? Now, this is the problem with a dollar, right? Let's go to 1 Kings 22. 1 Kings chapter 22. Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 22. Now, remember, Yahuwah is the one that creates evil. He creates good, and he creates evil. See, a lot of people miss that concept. Once again, a lot of people miss that concept. And no evildoer. Now, this is declaration. Once again, this is a declaration that I just made. It's according to the scriptures. I'm not leaning on my own understanding. I'm not speaking with emotion. I'm not speaking with feeling. None of us have any time for that. One of the reasons why true prophets like myself get into turmoil is because Christ brings smoke. That's what Christ is. That's what Christ was about when he was walking. He had smoke, right? Everybody had smoke with him. Why? Because he was very stand up and he told the truth. And specific men despise that. Be a man that is willing to take the truth, digest it, chew it up and spit it out, and then apply it to your life. Don't be a man that gets offended by the truth. You'll never get any respect from Elohim. You'll never get any respect from Christ like that. See, people don't mean anything at the end of the day because most people are weak. Before I go into the scripture, I want to say something, right? This message is to every leader out there and to every man that stands alone. Don't concern yourself with what the people are saying. You know why? Because the people are a bunch of chumps in many cases. Now, if you're not a chump, then you're not a chump. Because I know we got gorillas out here, right? Gorillas with a makeover. I know whom many of you are. I don't want the smoke, okay? So if you're a gorilla, you're a gorilla. It's not, this is what I'm saying, right? Let's not get emotional, right? If you're a gorilla, you're a gorilla, right? If you're a fish, you're a fish, right? So it is what it is. But to many of you leaders out here, you men leaders, stop listening to the people, because the people will edge you on and tell you, you gonna let him say that? You gonna let him get away with that? You gonna let him think he tougher than you? You gonna let him think, you gonna blah, blah, blah. Whenever you try to get praises in the eyes of the people, you do things that are foolish, which is the reason why I don't react on the emotions of others. I don't react on emotion at all. I only react according to the scriptures. Don't let people push you to do anything foolish. Because guess what the majority of these people are out here doing? Most of them are suckers, and all they doing is eating popcorn as soon as the drama break off. They're not about nothing. All they want to do is be visualizers. Get into your DMs, get into your comments and tell you this and tell you that and edge you on. That's why I said a lot of you people out here that are in leadership positions, you're not really leaders. Why? Because you're weak when it comes according to the people. So now, with that being said, here's a story about a very weak king. He was a king of Israel. He was a very weak man, and he goes by the name of Ahab. That Ahab spirit is out here today. It's out among us today. I see many of you, some of you preachers online, right? You let your woman or your wife do more talking than you do. And whatever she wants you to put out there, you put it out there. And whenever your wife or your fiance or your girlfriend gets offended, she passes it off to you, and then she speaks through you. Are you one of them niggas? Let me say that again. Many of you, the Ahab spirit is among us today. And whenever your wife gets offended about something that some other man said, she pushes it, she tells you about it, and then you get riled up just because she's offended, and then she speaks through you and have you say some stupidness or some foolishness. Right? This is only one of the weaknesses of King Ahab. Now you've all have heard of the Zebul. In English, it's called Jezebel. Well, there's two types of Jezebel. You have the Jezebel spirit, but you also had an actual woman by the name of Jezebel. Now, they aren't the same thing. A lot of people don't really know that. The Jezebel spirit, the Zebul spirit, and the actual Zebul that walked in flesh and bones, they aren't the same spirit. The Jezebel woman that actually walked, that spirit actually had possession of her. And that spirit walked long before she was born. So the Jezebel spirit took hold of the woman named Jezebel, but it's not her spirit. It's a spirit that existed long before her. There are men out here that also have the Jezebel spirit, which is sad. But in this case, we're not talking about Ahab and the weakness toward his wife. We're talking about Ahab and his weakness toward the people. The people should not move you. You're not steadfast and you're not a true man of Yahuwah if the people move you and if you do things only to receive praises in the eyes of the people. Many of you do that. Many of you in camps and organizations and congregations. This is a weakness. Okay? Now, once again, I'm only speaking according to the scriptures. I'm not speaking from emotion, and I'm not speaking from any feelings of any sort. Now, because I have a message that's called the people. But let me go ahead and I'm going to read this because I want you to hear why you should not be weak when it comes to the people. Listen very carefully because many of you make this mistake. Many of you in entertainment and many of you that have platforms and many of you that are in camps and in congregations, you make this mistake because you're always worried about what the people feel about you. Now, 1 Kings chapter 22. Now, there was a peace treaty between the Israel and Syria. Okay? This is during the time of Ahab. Okay? It was a peace treaty that happened, right? Thousands of years ago. We're not talking about now. And it was for about 3 years. Now, after that 3 years, it came time to go to battle. Between who? The Syrians and the black folks, the Israelites. Right? Now, this King Ahab, he was the king of Israel, this very weak king. He was the king of Israel, right? And it came time for him to go into battle at, what was it called? I don't even have it here. Oh yeah, here it is. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and read the scripture. This is 1 Kings chapter 22, verse 6. 1 Kings chapter 22, verse 6. And it says, Then the king of Israel, is referring to Ahab, then the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, about 400 men, and said unto them, Shall I go against Ramothgilead? Well, actually, Ramoth was in Gilead, to do battle, or should I forbear, or should I hold back? And they said, these prophets, the 400 prophets. Let me repeat that, because what he did is this king of Israel, Ahab, he gathered the prophets together, but these were his own prophets. That's the problem. Now pay attention. About 400 men, and said unto them, Shall I go against Ramothgilead to do battle, or should I hold back? Should I forbear? And these prophets, they said, Go up, for the Lord shall deliver it into your hand, into the hand of the king. So these 400 prophets that this king Ahab, this wicked, weak king Ahab, these 400 prophets that he got information from, that, or he got advice from, exhortation from, they told him, go ahead to battle, because Yahuwah is on your side. He's going to deliver the Syrians, he's going to deliver the land of the Syrians over to you. You're going to win the battle. So in other words, they were trying to say that Yahuwah was on his side. But here's the problem. Because these prophets were for hire. And they all said, dick riding, excuse my language, bandwagoning, they all said, sure, you're the king, you're the great leader. Go up until Gilead and contest the Syrians, because you will surely win. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and read, let's go further. In verse 7, and it says, And Jehoshaphat said, okay, so who is Jehoshaphat? So Jehoshaphat is, I believe, is he another king? I believe Jehoshaphat was a king too. Right? Because just like, if you saw the movie Troy, just like one king went and his brother, or Agamemnon, he asked him to go to war with him, to go over to Troy. So was Jehoshaphat a king? And he said unto Jehoshaphat, verse 4, Wilt thou go with me to battle? And Jehoshaphat was, okay. Yeah, Jehoshaphat was the king of Judah, okay? So Ahab was king of the northern kingdom, okay? And Jehoshaphat was king of Judah, right? So Ahab said, hey, look, brother, will you, I don't think it was his true blood brother, but he said, will you go to battle with me up to Syria, right? Against the Syrians, right? And Jehoshaphat said, sure, no problem, right? Now go back to verse 7. And Jehoshaphat said, is there not here a prophet of the Lord besides that we might inquire him? So Jehoshaphat was like, listen, is there another prophet of the Lord? Because we know that all these 400 prophets that you just gathered, you know, they just bandwagoning. They just riding your balls, right? They're going to tell you that you're not wrong. They're going to tell you, go ahead and go up to the battle, right? Verse 8, and the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, there is yet, pay attention, and this is 1 Kings chapter 22, we're at verse 8, and the king of Israel, Ahab, he said to Jehoshaphat, there is yet one man, Micaiah, the son of Imlah, by whom we may inquire of Yahuwah, but I hate him. Jehoshaphat, the king, he said, there's one man, but I hate him. Why did he hate him? For he do not prophesy good concerning me, but evil. So, see, Jehoshaphat thought that, you know, he was prophesying evil toward him. But he wasn't prophesying evil toward him. He was telling him the truth, because Yahuwah wasn't with him. Yahuwah wasn't with Ahab. But Ahab was deceived. And he thought Yahuwah was with him. And he had all these prophets for hire. And he got all these people for hire, right? And not only that, he abused his power against his own prophets. So they were afraid. The slightest thing that they say about his emotional ass, or the first thing they say to his emotional weak ass, they'll lose their job. So then it's going to say, he said, but I hate him, right? Because he only prophesies evil. And Jehoshaphat said, let not the king say so. Then the king of Israel called an officer, Ahab called an officer and said, hasten hither Micaiah, go get Micaiah, the son of Imlah. And the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, sat each one on his throne. So they both had thrones, they both were kings, sat each one on his throne, having put on their robes in a void place in the entrance of the gate of Samaria, and all of the prophets prophesied before them. All of the prophets for hire. They prophesied before them. And Zedekiah, the son of Shemaiah, made him horns of iron, and he said, thus saith Yahuwah, with these shalt thou push the Syrians until thou have consumed them. Now, who was Zedekiah? He was just another prophet for hire. And listen to what he said. He made horns of iron. So in other words, like a pre-celebration for him winning the war, right? And he said, thus saith Yahuwah, with these shalt thou push the Syrians until thou have consumed them. In other words, you're going to defeat the Syrians. And all the prophecies, all the prophets, all the false prophets for hire, prophesied so, saying, go up to Ramothgilead and prosper, for Yahuwah shall deliver it into the king's hands. Yahuwah shall deliver it into Ahab's hands. And the messenger that was gone to Micaiah spoke unto him, saying, behold now, the words of the prophets declare good things with one mouth. Declare good unto the king with one mouth. Then he's going to say, let thy word, I pray thee, be like the word of them. So the messenger that Ahab sent to go get Micaiah, the one man, the true prophet, he went to him and said, hey, listen, all the other prophets is saying good things about the king, that he's going to go up to this wicked, evil, weak king, that he's going to go up to the mountain of Ramoth and win the battle. I need you to go and tell him the same thing, right? You can't ask a true prophet of Yah to say what you want him to say. He doesn't say what you want him to say. He says, what thus saith Yahuwah, for real though. Now, and Micaiah said, and so he said, let thy word, I pray thee. So in other words, say what everybody else is saying. And Micaiah said, as the Lord liveth, that Yahuwah said unto me, that I will speak. So he came to the king, and the king said unto him, so now the Micaiah, the one true prophet, came to the king of Ahab, and he said unto him, Micaiah, shall we go? He came to the king, and the king said unto him, so he asked him, so King Ahab, the weak king of Ahab, he said to Micaiah, the true prophet, he said, shall we, me and my camaraderie here, shall we go up to Ramoth-Gilead to battle, or shall we forbear? And he answered, go and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. And the king said unto him, how many times, or shall we forbear? And he answered, go and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. And the king said unto him, how many times shall I adjure thee, thou tell me nothing but that which is true, in the name of Yahuwah? And he said, I saw all Israel scattered upon the hills, as sheep that have not heard a shepherd. Okay, so at first, he didn't tell them the truth. He said, go and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver into the hand of the king. Okay, Okay. Well, he technically didn't lie to him, right? But he was talking about the king of Syria, right? And so he technically he didn't lie to him. So then King Ahab is going to say, well, how many times shall I adjure thee that thou tell me nothing but that which is true in the name of Yahuwah? So Ahab knew that he didn't give him a complete answer. Why? Because he just said he would deliver it into the name of the king. He didn't say which king. So Ahab scratched his head. He said, well, okay, well, look, well, how many times I need you to tell me the truth? Tell me the truth then, right? Right? And he said, I saw all of Israel scattered upon the hills as sheep that have not a shepherd. And Yahuwah said, these have no master. Let them return every man to his house in peace. And the king of Israel said to Josaphat, did I not tell you that he would prophesy no good concerning me, but evil? So in other words, Micaiah was saying, listen, the king is dead. Who? The king of Israel. Because all of those soldiers were scattered like sheep that have no master. They had no king. Now hold on tight.